We're the Legends of the Stoop. We're here to advocate, educate, and inspire society.
Welcome back to Legends of the Stoop. I am your host, Mike Pernice. Today, joining me on the stoop is none other than my girlfriend, Michelle Lagree, who is a registered dietitian here in the Pittsburgh area. So today, we're going to be talking a little bit about what it means to be a dietitian, also honing in on sports dietetics, as that is one of her areas of expertise among many. She has a lot of certifications, a lot of letters after her name. And then we're also going to be talking about some misconceptions that there is out there in terms of supplementation use, excess amounts of protein, yada, yada, yada. We got a lot to go on and talk about in this episode, along with showing you how to prepare a meal that she has picked out for us. So Mish, welcome to the Stoop. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Of course.
So to get things started, why don't you go ahead and just tell us a little bit about the demonstration you're going to be showing us, and then we can go ahead and segue into talking a little bit about you.
Sounds good. Awesome. Well, today I actually picked out kind of a dual recipe. One is actually a freezer pesto that I thought would be delicious for one, the fact that I know a lot of people, their basil plants are thriving right now for it being almost July. And then on top of that, for incorporating some tofu, we are going to do some crispy air fryer tofu. So one, to show everyone a little bit how to cook tofu, what would be an easy, quick way to get a plant-based protein in there too. So I'm going to do a basil pesto mixed with air fryer tofu.
Nice. Awesome. And then what is our carb in this meal?
Yeah, so I actually today picked out a Banza chickpea pasta.
Ooh,
so
okay.
A great way to get a little bit extra protein. It's got 23 grams per serving, plus also 8 grams of fiber. So.
Is that a gluten-free option, or is that?
So in terms of it's chickpea pea protein, so yes, it would be gluten-free.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So why don't we go ahead and just talk a little bit about who you are before, or as I guess we start like prepping our meal here. So why don't you go ahead and just start off simply where did you go to school? Tell them a little bit about your undergrad, then your master's experience, and then we can go ahead and segue into your early career phase.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So I have been a dietitian for about 11 years now, which is crazy to think. I went to Carlow University for my undergrad for science, human and consumer sciences, so dietetics. After that, I had to do to become a dietitian, you need 4 years of undergrad, and you actually need to do a dietetic internship, which is a year-long program that provides you with a certain number of hours of continuing ed,
which is unpaid.
Which is unpaid. Some of them are, yes, unpaid. So you have to do continuing ed hours, which I got to do mine here in Pittsburgh with Adagio Health, and which was amazing because I really got to do shadow dietitians in different areas, which helped me then find my niche of what I liked. And
so different areas in terms of different areas of expertise, or different areas in terms of geographic?
No, different areas of expertise. So
okay.
I got to do some clinical work. So with dietitians in the hospital, I got to do work with dietitians outpatient, the cancer center, sports nutrition, in terms of, doing pediatrics and marketing, sales. So I was really all over the place.
So what got you interested in the first place? So why did you decide to have your undergrad in this?
Yeah, so that actually goes back to high school. So I was a high school athlete. I did competitive cheerleading, played soccer, was in track. So very active person. And I started to notice that when I was eating better, my performance was better. So that really was when I was going back to back from soccer to cheer practices, and if I was not eating the right things, I was seeing I was not performing the right way. So I really started to hone in on my body and my nutrition, and that was right around when Super Size Me came out, if anyone remembers that series. So Super Size Me was a documentary way back, I think in 2006 2005, I think is when it came out,
Okay.
where they did a study on the guy just ate McDonald's for a few months,
Yikes.
and his cholesterol went through the roof, and he gained a lot of weight. He actually saw issues with mood, energy, whole slew of issues. And that is really when the diabetes epidemic was skyrocketing. So they were really showing the benefits of, eating less processed, just having more fruits, vegetables, lean proteins, whole grains, all those in your diet. So I kind of really loved learning about that. I did my senior project on that, and then I was like, okay, I'm going into dietetics from there.
Now, did you ever see a dietitian growing up?
I didn't, no. So I didn't see a dietitian. So
any reason why? Any particular reason? Or
I will say my high school did not do the best job in terms of like offering, because now that I am a dietitian, I see a lot of like high school athletes, even middle school athletes, wanting to get that good nutrition for putting themselves in a great place for potentially like D1 athletics or college sports, professional sports. So
now is it more of these individuals like seeking you guys out on their own, or is there like now like a more push from the schools?
I think it's both. I think I get some referrals from coaches who do know the benefits of a dietitian. So I get some from the coaches, some from word of mouth, where if like
one player,
exactly, one player tells another player that they had benefits with talking with myself. Especially I see like athletes, let's say if they're vegan, vegetarian, they're having issues with like energy, or they're re-injuring themselves, that actually can potentially be them under fueling. If they're not getting enough nutrition or they're missing something, they're not going to be performing where they need to be. And those questions start like coming up, what can I do now? That's where they might search for a dietitian, and my name will pop up if you're within the Pittsburgh region.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. So as we kind of like segue into our topic on sports dietetics, what do we need to start getting prepped here in terms of our meal?
Yeah, so let's get started then for prepping this. And I did want to say, in terms of also to add to it, after the internship, I did have to sit for a national board exam, which again is another piece of becoming a dietitian. The undergrad, the internship, a lot of hurdles, yes. Sitting for the national board exam to become a dietitian, and then continuing ed that's always needed. And that's really the difference that separates us from nutritionists, or people that say, oh, I have a little nutrition background, or those trainers that just, no offense out there, will say like, yeah, I've taught myself, so I now know how to teach everyone. Whereas we've gone through the training of 5+ years of, and I also have a master's, so 6-7 years of both not only the sciences, the microbiology, the physiology, everything coming together with nutrition and how that can impact your health and sports.
Yeah, and also one thing too, another thing I want to touch on, I guess, as we're wrapping up kind of like our background on you, is Farm Truck Foods is the business that you ran in terms of serving food deserts here in Pittsburgh. So not just how important nutrition is to athletes, but how important it just is for us people, everyday people,
everyone,
right? Because as you mentioned even earlier already, how it can not only just affect like, your mind, but then also how like inflammation with the back, like as you see me go through one days where I don't eat well, right? So like just everyday health, but also obviously you need to be eating, or as I like to put it, putting the right fuel in order to see that peak performance. Because if you're running a Corvette, you're going to put in like top gas into that Corvette. You're not going to run the regular. So it's the same thing when it comes to an athlete.
Yes, there's a lot of great analogies with a car and a person with fueling ourselves, because like you said, if we're not fueling ourselves the right way, we're not going to be able to go the distance as far. So that's the same with every single person. And I work as a dietitian right now. I work in a private practice where I get to see a variety of different people. But before I started with this position, I was able to actually, through my master's in business administration with a healthcare emphasis, I went through a course that allowed me to write a business plan for coming up with an idea of how to increase the nutrition of Pittsburgh. So my idea was, my group's idea was a food truck that what back in, this was now 2000 and I want to say 9 or 10. No, I think it was, yeah, it was about 2010, 10 or so, 10 or 11. Food trucks were not as big as they are right now in Pittsburgh. So we did some research on food trucks in DC, New Mexico, Phoenix, a couple different areas that had a few of them, and kind of based our model off of those because they were actually working as nonprofits to service the food deserts in those areas. So our goal was, and our mission was the fact that Pittsburgh has a ton of food deserts, still do. They've shrunk a little bit, but not still, the Just Harvest has a bunch of great research out there, and just the lack of nutrition and the lack of food access in Pittsburgh. So our goal was to not only help the farmers by bringing the produce that they are harvesting into Pittsburgh, because farmers just don't have the time to do that. They're on the farm all day in the fields. So having to bring all that food into the city is a huge process. So we were trying to help the farmers, and then also the food deserts, the people in areas like Homewood, Hazelwood, Larimer, Millvale, places that don't have grocery stores, by bringing our truck and being able to stop at each of those places.
And you would think that like a grocery store would be like probably the most essential thing to have in a community.
Right.
And the fact that there is not, I mean, it's just like kind of mind-boggling.
It is,
to be
yeah.
honest, because it's something I feel like we take for granted. For those of us who live in areas where we have not just one, but sometimes multiple, right?
Right, exactly. And when we were doing the studies, it was just heartbreaking to see seeing testimonials and talking with people in these communities where they were so grateful to have our truck there, because they had to take a bus just to get into the city with their 2 bags that once they fit as much as they could in there, they would have to bus back. Whereas we can go in and out, we can take a whole shopping cart to our car, don't even think about the lengths that people have to go by themselves, sometimes with a child or 2, that they have to bring, try to carry produce all the way back to another community.
Or if you're an elderly person living in those food deserts too, the difficulty you have, because up until, recently, there wasn't apps like GoPuff or like Uber Eats and stuff like that, or some of these like delivering apps. But even so, still, like some senior citizens don't have the access to that technology. So they're at even more of a disadvantage as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So Farm Truck Foods was created from that. And we actually won the competition throughout all the Pittsburgh schools. My group did. So we did get, because of that, we actually worked with an accelerator program that provided us with money to get the whole business started if we were interested, which of course we were. So we started the business, Farm Truck Foods. So I was working full time, plus getting my MBA, plus then also running and operating a food truck business on the side. So it was the busiest time of my life by far, but I loved every minute of it. It was a great business that really I just was able to not only help so many people with the access piece for the food, but the relationship with the farmers, with the individuals in those communities. And then also I got to tie in my nutrition with it too, because I would do talks in the communities. I did food demos such as this with the products that we were selling, because some people may not know how to cook a butternut squash or what to do with spaghetti squash. So I made sure whatever we had, I had demo sheets for them. I was talking with them on, here's how to use this. And then we also did educational pieces to help make sure that, everything that we had was able to be used by the families in those communities.
That's awesome.
I loved it. So it was a really great, I think it was at the wrong time. My other co-founder, Meredith, and I always say that, like, if it was now, it might have been a different story, just for the fact that food trucks were not as popular. It was definitely ahead of its time, I think, but it was a great experience, and got to really use all my nutrition skills in more of a community type setting. Which I loved, because my goal as being a dietitian was just to help as many people as I could in terms of helping them thrive and live longer, have better, healthier lives, and do what they love too. So, yeah.
Well, as we talk about food, I'm getting a little hungry. And this garlic.
I know. Yeah. It's
making
very
me water.
potent. Yes.
So
yeah.
why do you say we start fueling ourselves?
Sounds good.
So
Awesome.
what should we do first?
Yes. So for the freezer pesto, so what we're going to need is some spinach, some basil, and edamame, which you can get frozen or in the refrigerated section at Trader Joe's, Market District, Whole Foods, any of those places. You're going to need some hemp hearts. So hemp hearts are actually hulled hemp seeds. You can find these in Market District, Trader Joe's, Aldi's, any of those stores would have that too. We're going to need olive oil. We are going to need Parmesan, salt and pepper. And then also we're going to need the whatever pasta that you want to use. So you can use the chickpea pasta. You can use, if you would like, another type of grain potentially, up to you. We're just using the Banza because I'd love to get a little extra protein and fiber in this meal to show the benefit of how we can get a lot of protein actually without any meat sources. So yeah, so to start, we're going to take about 10 ounces of spinach. So just kind of measure that out with a cup and put that into, we're going to put it all in the blender. So this actually is why I wanted to do this recipe, because you can actually save this and freeze it, or
okay.
Yeah.
So good for meal prepping.
Yes, exactly.
Gotcha.
So you can save it, use it later on, or make it for the family for that. Or you can use some of it and save some of it and freeze it. So,
right.
So the basil, you're going to want to do 1/4 of a cup. And so I already picked my basil from my basil plant outside, which our basil's thriving right now. So another reason why I wanted to do this recipe. So throw that into the blender. And then you're also going to want to do 1/4 cup of the hemp seeds, hemp hearts. And these are high in protein, high in fiber, but they also have omega-3 fatty acids. So they're the good healthy fats that we want to be seeing in our diet a lot more of.
And what is the benefits to having those in your diet?
Yeah, so benefits for omega-3 fatty acids are eye health, brain health, heart health. They really, we as Americans don't get a lot of those omega-3 fatty acids, so they can certainly help with reducing our cholesterol, helping to make sure, again, we have a healthy, strong heart.
And these are primarily found in fish, right?
So there's different sources of omega-3 fatty acids, but cold water fish is a really, really good source. So like cold water fish would be tuna, salmon, albacore tuna, lake trout, herring, sardines. Any cold or water fish is a really good source of omega-3 fatty acids. You can also, though, use for plant-based. You can use chia seeds, flaxseed, hemp hearts. You could also get it from olive oil. Another benefit are some of the good oils like avocado oil, olive oil, canola oil, things like that too. So where's the tablespoon measure? Actually, let's just make sure. Okay, actually it's 1/4 of a cup. So
Right here.
perfect. So we're going to add 1/4 of a cup of our olive oil. So it's got a double helping of those omega-3 fatty acids with the hemp hearts and olive oil in there. And this is going to be what helps to really mix up and be the liquid for the pesto. So we got that in there. And then we're also going to add in some garlic. So 1 head of minced garlic, which I already did to save us a little time. So I'm going to add that in here for us. Okay. And then we're also going to do 1/4 teaspoon, which I'll just use a little bit of this, of black pepper.
And where did you get that black pepper from?
I got this black pepper from Penzeys Spices, which is my favorite go-to place for spices. We have a variety that we use every day for our eggs every morning. They have some really, really amazing salt-free spices too. So
The barbecue ones that we've tried.
yes, very
Those have
good.
been really good too.
Yeah. So healthy option. They have a ton of different, types of spices, and they did just open back up. They were closed for a while.
Wait, you can go in now?
Yes,
Oh,
you can go
nice.
back in. So that's one benefit too. All right, so we got the pepper in there. We're also going to add the salt. So same, just a quarter of a teaspoon there for some salt.
So is salt still the enemy?
Not for an athlete,
No.
but for and for a lot of people that are more active, I think salt had been the enemy salt was too much of the enemy for too long with the back in early 2000s when we went on the heart health kick and people said no salt ever, but we still do need salt. It actually, is part of a lot of different processes in our body, and we need that salt water balance. And so not the enemy, I'd say, for if you're conscious of, just adding salt lightly to foods and you're not doing a lot of processed foods, eating out a lot, where those are usually the heavier types of sodium rich dishes,
Right.
then you're probably okay, unless you do have high blood pressure or something that would put you, we would want to cut back a little bit and have more of a heart healthy style diet.
Gotcha.
But an athlete needs salt, which we can touch on with hydration a little bit later there. Okay. So we got the quarter teaspoon of salt, and then also we're going to do some Parmesan, which you can use a vegan Parmesan if you'd like to, or not, completely up to you. So we are going to do, that's 1 tablespoon, which our tablespoon measure. I'm going to do this over the sink.
Yeah.
Okay, and then just pop that in there. So we are good to go. We've got everything in, so it looks super pretty, and actually we already smells great. Yes. So you're just gonna blend this, which I already did for us because I didn't want to have to do that on camera. So that is the pesto. Like I said, that blend for a few minutes. You'll see it'll get a really good consistency, and then I just use this to scrape down the sides to make sure that it blends evenly. So do you want to move on to see the finished product of that, or
of the sauce? Yeah.
Okay.
If you want to show the finished product of the sauce, and then we can slide that on off.
Sounds good. So while that was blending, we added some edamame, which is, again, another great protein source for any vegan, vegetarian, or anyone, of course, too, for an extra protein source, a half a cup, which, again, like I said, all you have to do is warm these up in the microwave or stovetop. So super easy. And a half a cup has about 9 grams of protein. So really easy way when we're thinking of trying to get enough protein in a meal for especially some of the bigger athletes, adding things like edamame, chia seeds, flaxseed, beans, lentils, great way to amp up the fiber and the protein. So I already cooked these. It only took about 2 minutes in the microwave. And then for another protein source, and we did cook the pasta already too to save us some time, but just follow the recipe for or the instructions on how to cook that, and you can make as much as you'd like to for how many family members.
23 grams.
Yes.
And what, a cup?
It is
2 ounces.
2 ounces.
Oh, no, that's dry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so it usually puffs out, so it'll probably be like 4 ounces.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Especially like as we were talking about, like especially for someone who's a vegetarian or a vegan athlete per se, like it's very hard to cover your protein bases.
Right.
And touching on that, like I know I was always told, like in like growing up and in high school, like, hey, like don't eat more than like 30-35 grams of protein in a meal, because like anything over that is like apparently excess, like you don't absorb, and it just like goes out.
Yeah. So they've kind of debunked that a bit. I mean, The goal still is for protein to, which we as dietitians will take whoever we're working with and we can calculate your protein needs based on your current weight. And if you want to lose weight or gain weight, what that should look like. So the protein needs for someone will vary. And of course, if someone is a strength athlete or an endurance athlete, which they're even showing endurance athletes do need more protein, strength athletes need a lot more. So that's going to be taken into account for what the gram amount would be. But for anyone, ideally we want to just space out that protein and have good piles of protein throughout the day so that your body is just optimally using that, just instead of having one big meal, let's say dinner, and then you skip breakfast, lunch, and then have 100 grams of protein in your dinner meal. That's not the best way. We'd rather have, let's say, 40 grams for a bigger athlete. Let's say, for example, like 40 grams, maybe 50, 60, maybe a couple snacks of 25 to try to hit that 200 or so mark.
Right. Now, in terms of when it comes to like absorption of protein, is there like, does it matter whether or not it's like whey protein, pea protein, or any other of these type of proteins, or does it simply just matter that it's protein? Like, is protein essentially protein?
Yeah, that's a great question because protein is not essentially just protein. It depends on, let's say, for a vegan vegetarian athlete that wants to get like edamame or beans or lentils. Beans, lentils, those are not complete proteins. So what that means is they need to be paired with something else to actually have all the amino acids that make up a protein. Okay. So there are essential amino acids that are found. Meat is, let's say, a meat, fish. Those are all complete proteins. So they have all the amino acids that are essential that our body does not make that we need. So for, let's say, beans, nuts, and seeds, that's why you'll see a lot of dishes that are beans and rice, because rice has certain amino acids and beans have certain amino acids. So paired together, you get all the amino acids that you need in your meal.
And what are those BCAAs that I always put in my drink afterwards?
Leucine, isoleucine, valine, there's a whole long list, but so the essential ones that, that again, that are found in protein sources with meat, whey, so, milk, dairy, that's why whey protein is great because it has all of those already in it. Whereas again, like a pea protein blend, that's why usually you see for a vegan protein, it's usually a blend of rice, pea, splits, bean, brown rice, something like that, they take a couple different sources so that they can have all those amino acids in that protein powder.
Okay. Huh. And then when it comes to like protein powder with vegan per se, is there like any specific brand you might recommend for those who might be interested?
Yeah, there are a few good brands. I would say my one of my favorites is Orgain, which is probably the most accessible to anyone. They have ready-made drinks and also the powder. So if you're someone that wants just the drink that you don't even, you can take it with you on the go, super easy, or the protein powder is pretty good too. So I will say it's with vegan protein powder, it is still like pea, rice, so it's not the best tasting sometimes for some of them. So that's why it's nice to throw berries and throw peanut butter and different types of fruits, vegetables in there, so it can amplify and give you a really nice taste holistically instead of just the protein powder and water, let's say.
Right. Now, so we talked a lot about protein, right? But that's not the only thing that should be on my plate when I sit down.
Yes.
Right. So in terms of like making sure I'm properly fueled, right? Like, say I have a game tomorrow, like what should be on my plate?
Yeah. So for any athlete that I work with, that's going to look a little different based on where they're at, and if it's a rest day, if it's a training day, if it's a competition day, completely different plate.
In season.
Yes, exactly. So rest days, we're going to have more color on that plate. So it's going to be half that plate, fruits, vegetables, getting more color. And that's this is how most of us should be eating every single day, is half that plate getting fruits, vegetables, that color, a quarter of that plate.
So literally split this plate in half, half vegetable, quarter protein, and then quarter grain.
Exactly. And then a little bit of sparing healthy fat source. So that could be a tablespoon of olive oil. That could be a tablespoon of the hemp hearts. That could be
cheese.
Yep, cheese. Ounce of cheese. That could be a tablespoon of nut butter of some sort. So that would be that fat source. So you need a sparing amount of fat because it's still essential to, like we said, get those omega-3 fatty acids. But it is very dense calorically, so that's why you only need a little bit for per meal to still get the same benefits.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so for, let's say, an athlete on competition day, that's going to look a little different where you're going to get a lot more carb. Carbs are victimized a lot in just the world right now with just the diet culture that's out there, but carbs, athletes specifically really need carbs. That is going to fuel them for their workouts. It's going to help with recovery. It's going to help with their mood, their energy throughout the rest of the day. That's going to help give their muscles that glycogen it needs for those for your high sprint days and for your competitions, your jumps, your runs, everything. So that plate is going to be half carb and still getting some color, protein, and a little bit of fat too. So again, the plate varies, and we call it the performance plate, and that's what I really go over with my athletes that I work with based on, okay, this is what your plate needs to look like. What do you like, and how we can form that plate based on what they prefer, so that again, it's working best for them.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So what if I'm following your plate recommendations to a T? What are some of the effects I should see when it comes to my performance, and then also just like my overall health?
Yeah. So I think going back to how you were saying about fueling your car, if you're fueling yourself the right way, you're going to have better energy. You're going to be performing better. I have a ton of my athletes coming back right away and saying, wow, I can't believe I'm able to push myself that extra bit by being able to jump higher for volleyball, being able to run a little bit, hit my PRs a little bit easier for, lifting or for cycling, things like that, from getting more carb and timing the meals appropriately based on what their workout or sport is. So we really work on timing, the amount, and then also the quality of what you're getting for that sport, for what season you're in and what your day-to-day looks like.
So what do you mean by timing? Like there's certain times I should be eating as an athlete?
Yeah.
It's not just like eat. I was just told to eat, babe.
Yeah.
So they did me wrong?
And we've been working on him eating more. And that's a common misconception is, I can just eat twice a day and push myself through my workouts. You should be eating way more than that. My athletes, I want them to be eating every 2 to 3 hours, whether that be a meal or snack. That is going to give you enough fuel that is going to, especially again, if you're a bigger athlete, you're going to need a lot more calories, and trying to fit in all of those in the dinner meal, you're going to have a GI upset. You're not going to feel great. You're going to be a little more tired, the next morning trying to digest all of that. And that's not going to optimize the fuel for your workouts during the day that you missed having breakfast maybe, or didn't get enough fuel with snacks, things like that. So timing for having let's say a meal at a certain point, usually like 3-4 hours before a meet, is ideal. And also the type of foods too can upset your stomach potentially. So we usually work with our athletes to make sure that those meals 3 to 4 hours on, especially competition training days, are low in fat, low in fiber, since those two are very hard to digest. So that usually will cause upset for an athlete going into a competition or a training, or even for let's say a regular person like myself going to my workout classes. If I have too much fiber, let's say a big thing of beans, might not be the best bet for trying to do burpees after that. So for anyone, that's a good rule of thumb, is trying to have a meal 3 or 4 hours before, or you can certainly still have something, let's say for if you wake up in the morning and your workout's in an hour, you can still certainly have something in an hour before that can optimize.
That's like one thing when I was coaching with Franklin Regional, one thing that we emphasized to the kids was, because we had lifting right after school, was, hey, pack some sort of granola bars, like some nuts, like something, like some sort of like carb based
Right.
food that you can like, shovel down real quick, like in the 15 minutes you have between, the day of school ending and lifting starting, just something simple, and then making sure you have, that protein powder there as soon as you're walking out. So that way you dump it right in your water bottle, shake it up, and you're good to go already.
Exactly. But I will add for the protein shaking up and leaving that you still need carb for post-workout.
Yes,
so milk and protein that you shake up and leave your workout with would be better than just water and protein. So that misconception you see, some people leaving the gym with just their protein and water, they're not optimizing their muscle glycogen, refueling your muscles with the carb source and the protein together collectively. So there are definitely a lot of great strategies for, just like you were saying, and I love hearing when coaches do really work with students to make sure, like, hey, telling them bring things with you, pack in advance so that you have, snacks and recovery meals. So you're not waiting hours before you get home and then you've missed that window to optimize your recovery.
Yeah, and also that is because, like, as coaches, we're pushing you to exceed your ceiling.
Yep.
But you can never exceed or meet that ceiling if you don't have the fuel to get there.
Right. Exactly.
You know what I mean? So if you're, as a good coach, needs to be preaching that as well, which is definitely something that I would love to see more of. But as we're talking a little bit about this timing, I think this would be like a good point to bring in and bring up intermediate fasting, because I know it's something that I've even done, like as like even when I was playing, like throughout like the seasons and stuff. Like, I know there's like kind of like a big craze behind it right now. And I know also a lot of my friends who are also athletes currently right now have either done it or are doing it. So what are the drawbacks to intermediate fasting, not just as an athlete, but like for like your health overall?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So intermittent fasting, as you said, is definitely a new, craze nowadays, but certainly intermittent fasting is not one thing. So it's very hard to even say what that is. Some people do it for religious reasons. Some people are doing it for weight loss. Some people are doing it to maybe have more structure to their meals or to their meal timing. So in terms of what, for an athlete specifically, it's different they have shown some benefits for weight loss, but for an athlete, I don't personally recommend it because of the fact, one, if you have a morning practice and you're not eating for hours after that practice, again, you're not fueling for that workout, and nor are you refueling in that time period that you need to. You're not saying, oh, well, I have my workout at 6 a.m. and I can't eat till 11, even though I'm famished, I'm tired, I'm lethargic, I'm dehydrated.
Yeah, muscles are literally like, please, give me something.
Exactly. So I don't personally recommend it for my athletes for that reason, because they should be, like I said, eating every 2 to 3 hours to get all the protein, the carb, the fat, the hydration, all the vitamins, nutrients they need for refueling and for their immune system and for inflammation, reducing that inflammation that comes naturally when you're breaking your muscles and tearing your muscles through that workout. So if you're not timing that meal to be a post-workout recovery because it's not in your window, then it's not really you're not optimizing how you can.
Right. So then obviously that's just going to have tremendous drawbacks.
Yes.
So
increased risk for injury, again, not being able to perform potentially at your capacity because you're not fueling yourself as you should be for those workouts. But
so moving on in terms of our demo over here, so we have our pesto sauce.
Yes.
Right. So and then we talked about the chickpeas. So we already have the chickpea made up.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about this tofu here. What are we doing with the tofu?
Yeah. So we are just going to air fry, crisp it. So very easy. I thought I'd do something to add with it, which I know for a lot of people looking at tofu, I bring it up in conversation, and a lot of people are very overwhelmed when they hear tofu because they think, whoa, I don't know what that is. I can't cook with it. A lot of people have not used it. and it's so easy, as he can
Yeah,
attest
no,
to.
honestly, yeah, it's really easy. Like I was a little intimidated by it at first because I'm looking at it and I'm just like, it is a white block of nothingness. So I'm like, but when you think about it, it's essentially just like a very nice blank canvas
Mhm.
that you can flavor. Like it just absorbs any flavor that you put into it. So like if you're making like that barbecue tofu that I love to make, is unbelievable. It's really good, and the seasoning just like really packs a punch with tofu. So I really like it. Tempeh also
Yes.
is another good one.
Yeah, very good. So yeah, like he said that, it certainly takes on whatever flavor that you put it with. So that's really the best way to just be able to use it in anything is, flavor it up and put it with something that, a good sauce that you like, seasoning that you like, and it's just going to take on those flavors. So really easy to work with. It's a great calcium source. It almost has as much calcium as like a cup of milk. So for someone who, especially athletes, need that calcium and vitamin D for, strong bones, for muscles. I mean, that is, essential. So, plus, you can also get it from some greens while we're adding in, kale and spinach, things like that, to broccoli to your diet, but also for tofu too is a great source.
Right.
Yeah. So in terms of how to prepare tofu, we always start actually, which I'll give a little tip, is to press it overnight. So we always take the block out and we'll take out the excess water and then put a paper towel underneath and over top of it and press it down. And then I'll leave that in the fridge overnight for us to prepare the next day. So
yeah, it's very important to make sure you absorb the water out of the tofu,
yes.
or else like if you go to like cut it up like we're gonna show you, it's just gonna crumble.
Yep.
Because of that water, it doesn't really hold its structure well.
Exactly. Yep. So the extra firm, and then if you're pushing out the water, as you can see overnight, it did get the paper towel wet. So yes, yeah. So that definitely is a good way to make sure that you're crisping it up easier, so you're not putting yourself through having to work extra by getting that water out, cooking it longer. So as you can see, I've already cut a few pieces. All you literally have to do, it's very easy. You can just cut it like this, straight down, and then I will typically take a piece and cut it again in smaller pieces, and then once that way. So then they come out like little squares,
cubes,
little cubes. You can make them whatever size that you want to. So that really, based on the recipe, if you wanted, bigger pieces, if you're eating most of this yourself, if you're, bigger athlete, then you can do, a bigger slice, or you can even cube it that way too. I've seen recipes that, certainly utilize that. So again, all up to what type of recipe that you're using.
We'll say the smaller pieces obviously are going to cook faster than the bigger pieces.
Exactly.
So if time is an issue, then I definitely recommend going with the smaller pieces.
Yeah. Yep. And so for, again, meal prepping with athletes, tofu is just as easy as any of the other ones to prep, because you can cut this up fully in these little cubes. You can prepare them, and then you can put them in containers like this for the week with, let's say, your edamame on one side, your other vegetables, your protein, get that ready to go, so you can take it to school for lunch or for your post-workout recovery meal that you can eat in the car on the way home.
Yeah, so definitely some of the benefits to meal prepping. Obviously, the first one that comes to mind is convenience.
Yep.
Right. So what are some other advantages to meal prepping for athletes as well?
Yeah, so convenience, definitely a huge one. Just making sure you're getting enough of that key nutrition would be a reason to meal prep. So you're saving time, you're saving money, and you're optimizing the amount of nutrition that you can get from being mindful of, okay, if I chop up my veggies and fruits in advance, I'm more likely to use them. That's number one thing I talk with a lot of my clients about, is how to use some of these fruits and vegetables so that they're getting not only protein, but the color in there too, by washing their vegetables and cutting them and putting them in containers right when they come home, or doing a big batch, so that again, they are more likely to be able to add those into those dishes, very easily.
Right. Yeah, because like cutting up vegetables, it's like, you don't really think about it, but it's kind of a little bit of a tedious process to do. Like, especially for us, like when we make eggs every morning,
Right.
like we always put the vegetables in. So it's like, if I already have it cut up, then I don't have to sit here every morning and chop it all up and put it in. And it's just like
more dishes.
Yeah.
No thank you.
It's just like grab my measuring cup because I know I need a couple veggies in there because of my diet plan, put them in, like it's done. It's easy, it's convenient. Yeah.
Yes. And fun fact, the Stoop likes to do dishes. I do not. So I am one of those people that will use my cutting board once, cut up all my veggies for numerous days, for salads for lunch, eggs in the morning, throw some color in there, and then for like stir fries in the evening. And then we're good to go for our color for the full week without having to try to prepare something every single night. Because again, if you're eating every 2 to 3 hours, there's no way you're going to have the time.
That's a lot of prep time.
Yeah,
it's a lot of prep time.
So anything you can do to make that easier, but still optimize. I know that is, I call it planning the pre-plan, where you have to think about, okay, what do I need for next week? What types of meals am I in the mood for? And then, going and buying those so that you have them and you can prepare those so that you don't even have to spend any time potentially during the week of putting those together.
Yeah. Yeah. You can simply come home, pop it in the microwave. Like it's all ready. Everything's measured out. Makes tracking your macros so much easier, especially if that's something that you're doing on a daily basis, which is really important to be doing if you're an athlete, and making sure they're at the right amounts, not too far up in one area and too far low in another.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. Which is also something else that a dietitian can help with kind of, individualizing, some of those, meal plans, or, making sure you're getting enough of what you need based on the numbers that we can, calculate for you. So, definitely just for the convenience and, like you were saying, for having things in between school and, practice, or in between, competitions, meets, that's where having food ready to go is going to make life so much easier for you, being able to fuel and optimize the best that you can.
Yeah. Now, we talked a lot about like fueling coming from food sources, right? So like our tofu, our edamames, even our pesto sauce here. But what about supplementation? Because I know that's like a big thing I was always told about, especially is like you need to make sure that you're supplementing and supplementing properly too. Like I was always told like creatine is like something I should always be taking on top of my BCAAs, on top of the protein, and then like daily vitamins. Like, so what are supplements that I should, as an athlete, be making sure I'm including? And then what are some that I can make sure to like steer away from as well?
Yeah. Definitely good question that I get a lot. And certainly as a dietitian, I'm always about whole foods first. So getting it from, you can get all the nutrition you need from whole foods, but certainly supplements can be beneficial as, again, that aid. It's kind of like when we talk about the pyramid, it's the top portion of that pyramid that might be that extra little boost for someone if they're not getting enough of something that they need. But the bottom tiers are, hydration and fuel from real food. So, it can certainly, again, be a good aid for, let's say, someone, for, you mentioned creatine, which has really good studies in terms of the benefit of it, especially for those short burst type workouts, sprints and jumps, things like that, our body, it gets depleted very easily of creatine that it has. And especially for someone who's vegan or vegetarian, there's usually a pretty low concentration in your body already of creatine. So for our muscles using that, supplementing can be beneficial for those workouts to get that extra burst, so that you're not depleting it as quickly. So that one has shown a lot of good studies for athletes. Omega-3s is another really good one for not only competition or for the athlete performance, but also for recovery, because of the fact that those omega-3s, like I said, have a great inflammatory type benefit for muscles, for heart health, brain health, eye health, all of those good things. So that one they have shown to be beneficial for holistically, a lot of people on top of, definitely an athlete too. So that one's great. You said protein, definitely. Protein is I would even say it's one that is a good crutch if, for certainly, those times when you're busy, you're on the go, you need
Right.
like a protein shake with you, or a whole smoothie that has protein powder. It's definitely easy, convenient, and can be very helpful for someone, again, that needs to hit those protein goals for the day.
Right.
So I would say that one certainly is a really essential one. A lot of times, depending again on athlete to athlete, a lot of times we can get enough protein if it's maybe someone smaller size, shorter stature, but definitely can be good just for on the go, quick, convenient protein source. So protein, the creatine, omega-3s have been beneficial. I would say for vitamin D also being a good one too, that they've shown a lot of great studies for. And if you had to ask me what one supplement in Pittsburgh that is probably needed for a supplement, I would say vitamin D 100%, because case in point, it was pouring today, no sun. So we do not get the benefit of other people in other countries or closer to the equator that we would for just getting natural sunlight with that vitamin D.
And then zinc too, right? Because doesn't zinc help absorb vitamin D, or is it the other way?
No. So vitamin D actually helps absorb calcium.
Oh, that's what
so
it is. Okay.
Calcium and vitamin D, a lot of supplements have them both together, but for vitamin D, I usually recommend a good bit based on what their diet might look like if they're pretty low in vitamin D, or if they've had that taken with their doctor, which a lot of doctors will take based on if someone says they're low energy or fatigue, things like that. They might have those results we can go over and then be able to supplement based on that. But for like even myself, I take about 5,000 IUs of vitamin D, which is, there's a couple different counseling bodies that recommend how much per the dietary allowance. So that one's a little on the higher end, and I think it is very beneficial for making sure you're getting enough of. So so, and of course it can better help calcium too for, again, bone health. Having both together would be essential. So if you're getting tofu but you're not getting a vitamin D source, let's say like it's fortified in milks, or fish has some, again, that egg yolks have a little bit, but it's not in a lot of things. So someone, especially a vegan, vegetarian, we might look at supplementation or try to figure, if they're not drinking soy milk or something that can be fortified, then a supplement would be beneficial.
Yeah. So we talked about our pesto sauce, and we talked about our crispy tofu here. So we ready to show them?
Sure. Yeah. Yes. But I was going to add too for the supplements that for a warning too, because like you were saying, for what's the risk. Yeah. Again, for supplements are not regulated. There's no governing body to say, and anyone can make a supplement. So that's why it's scary. And some of my athletes will come and say like, oh, I'm taking this, a whole laundry list. Yeah. And some of the, some of the supplements out there are not third-party approved. There's bodies like the NSF that can that looks at those companies, those supplements, and actually says what's in it is actually in it. Right. So they've done some really scary studies of saying like, someone who's taken ashwagandha, let's say for stress management, that there was actually like less than 5% or almost no ashwagandha actually in the product.
Yeah, so it's like a fake, almost placebo thing.
Exactly. Yeah,
and also too, like especially for those of you who are like college athletes, making sure that your supplements are checked, NCAA approved. So like they have the list on the website, but personally, I always just went to my trainer and would show them like, hey, I'm getting Beyond Raw Nutrition lab grade creatine. Is this okay to use? And like, I get his opinion on the matter, obviously, because he's the go-to person for us in that setting. So yeah, definitely make sure you're getting all your supplements approved. Exactly. Because it's like one thing that you don't want to come back to bite you after you just put in all this work and all this stuff, and then you take a drug test and you fail because you're taking something that has a banned substance in it and you didn't even know.
Exactly. Yeah. Or it's just you're wasting your money. I mean, the fact that some of these supplements are not cheap. and they're toted by an influencer or someone who actually knows nothing about what the supplement does.
Yeah.
So why it's good to talk with a trainer or a dietitian, your coach, to see how you can an expert that knows a little bit more and has recommended brands like I do for the supplements that we get. So yeah.
All right. Well, let's try this dish. It looks amazing.
Alrighty, so like I said, we did already prepare the tofu in advance, and then put this together so that we could easily show you. So this is the end product. So as you can see, we've got the crispy air fryer tofu on top.
Mm-hmm.
The edamame is kind of spurred within, and then we have the pasta with the basil pesto just all in there really nicely. So yeah, it's a green. I know it looks a little green, but the pesto is absolutely amazing, and easy way to get spinach in your diet if you're not a huge greens person.
I am.
Yes, I know you are. But a lot of people don't like, greens. So having basil in there and a little bit of Parmesan garlic really spices it up and hides having the spinach in there. So.
And if all of this green scares you, you can always take, if you have grape tomatoes, slice up some grape tomatoes, throw some in there, add a different color if all this green's scaring you, but it doesn't scare me. But I'm gonna take a little bit of blend.
Yeah, go for it. Flavor punch.
Yeah, that's really good, babe.
Yeah.
Good job.
Good. Thank you.
Good job, babe.
Yeah, thank you.
So
yeah, what we did with the tofu actually, before we air fried it, is we actually put these spices. We'd use a little bit of onion powder, garlic powder, salt, and pepper, and then we mixed those up together. And then we also took olive oil. So we took these pieces, dunked them in the olive oil, and then put it in cornstarch in the spices. So the cornstarch acts as a really good binding agent for helping to crisp it up. So with the spices added into the cornstarch, we dipped the pieces into the olive oil first, and then into the spice cornstarch mixture, and then laid it in the air fryer, and then
we put it in there for 15 minutes?
Yep, yeah, 12 minutes.
12
so
minutes.
Even shorter.
Nice.
And this is what it came out to, as you can see, really nice crispy bites. Yeah. So super easy and very delicious meal that certainly, like he said, you could add some other great tomatoes, onions, peppers, whatever you'd like to kind of, again, put your own little jazz twist on it.
So looking at this plate right here, just rough estimate, grams of protein, grams of carbs, fat, because I know those are our three main macros that we track.
Yeah.
So what are we looking at here roughly?
Yeah, so roughly I would say in terms of, protein, depending on, I guess, how much tofu you want to use. So that could vary, but like we had said, for a half a cup being about 9 grams for the edamame, which I put in a full cup here. So that would be about 18 grams just from the edamame. You'd probably be getting close to, if you're getting 3 ounces of tofu, maybe around or let's say we'll go for 4 ounces of tofu. If we add a little bit more, about 6 grams per ounce, that would be 28 or so grams for if we did 4.5 ounces of the tofu. So then
plus
we're
the
up to
from the edamame, so we're at 46 grams.
Yes, and then this does have, off the top of my head, I want to say 4 grams of protein or so.
50, and then we also have protein from the chickpea.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's
the
23 grams of protein or 13 per 2 ounces, which we definitely have about 8 ounces there. So it'd be about 26 grams then for about 8 ounces of cooked.
So in total, we have what, 74?
I'm gonna need my calculator for this. So.
Wait, it was 48 plus 26. So yeah, it'd be 74 grams of protein.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is a power packed bowl there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Of course, it's
this,
a lot for one person, but certainly, feel
right.
free to split it. And then I would just make sure you're getting enough tofu for each person. But again, that would be an easy way to get, carb. Like we said, the fat serving,
Yeah.
it'd be a good
And
amount per person if you split this too with the amount of oil we used.
And if you're splitting it too, that's like, roughly about 35 grams of protein for that sitting, which is like right in that, I would say, I guess we could call it like a sweet spot window.
Yeah.
In terms of amount of protein you should be getting in your meals at least.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I would say that definitely makes it, with, again, athletes usually size wise and for how much your needs are, like 35 would be a good, like just ballpark kind of number to throw out there for what would be a good amount. So when people come in and say like, oh, I just have a Greek yogurt for breakfast and then I only have a salad with a, let's say just a salad for lunch, and then they'll have like, a Chipotle for dinner. Certainly all good things, but that's not enough fuel. So that's really where I come in to, okay, well, let's have that Greek yogurt with a little bit of fruit as a pre-workout an hour before. Right. Let's still get breakfast with eggs and
toast.
English muffin, nut butter, avocado, things like that in. Let's get another snack in, then the salad, which we will throw edamame and salmon, which again, there's a lot of great easy ways that we can work together with, instant brown rice or fillets that are already prepared. All you have to do is throw them on a sheet pan and cook them in a batch. So there's certainly ways, that can make prepping all of that food easier, but definitely, optimizing again for your performance. Someone that's underfueling is not potentially performing at their peak versus someone who is actually optimizing their fuel throughout the day.
Right. Well, hey, Mish, thank you so much for stopping by the Stoop today.
Of course.
I appreciate it. You did
of course.
a wonderful job. This is delicious. I wouldn't expect anything else. So at this time, please go ahead, give yourself a shout out. That way people know how to get in contact with you. If they want to see you, if they have questions about their diets, even like workout stuff, like, where can they reach you?
Yeah. And even, let's give him also some credit because he's a really good chef too. And we have fun Fridays that we do, like, we prep different meals, which is something that I always share with my clients because usually people go out Friday, Saturdays, but instead we usually try a new recipe out on Fridays together so that it's something, if we like it, we keep it in the rotation of, planning it for other weeks. If we don't like it, then we didn't waste a whole prepped week on the recipe. So I always try to, say to have fun like we do. And then it's the, just the relationship of having, cooking that meal together that really is bonding and nice. So yeah. But for myself, in terms of, how you can contact me, I'm always taking new clients, so feel free to outreach myself at casespecificnutrition.com, or that is our Instagram, Facebook handle is Case Specific Nutrition. My Instagram is Lagree Dietetics, so Lagree, Lagree Dietetics. Which you can also find in any of his stories this week. So feel free to contact me there if you have any questions, if you or anyone you know is interested in talking with the dietitian, or again, I like he was saying, have some certifications under my name. So not only sports, but I do work with, weight loss, heart health, inflammation, I work with GI issues, concerns, and just optimizing your own health too, if you feel like that would be something that, you would like to learn more about. And we do take insurance, which is great because a lot of people don't know that they do have coverage with a dietitian until we check for them and say, oh, you can see us unlimited. So it's a really nice benefit. So feel free to, check out any of my posts. And I, like you said, share workouts and recipes and fun things that we do on the weekends together. So feel free to follow me and share there.
Well, again, thank you, babe, for stopping by the Stoop. And as always, please go ahead, like, follow, subscribe on all of our platforms, wherever you are listening to us as well. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button. In order to stay up to date on all things Legends of the Stoop, you can either go to our website at www.legendsofthestoop.com, or you can check us out on Instagram. That is our primary page where we post all upcoming episodes. We also have a couple new features coming that have been posted already, such as our first open mic night, where we open up our platform for other creatives to share their content with our followers. And then we also have the Stoop Spotlight, which is another thing that we're doing to help highlight local businesses, people, musicians, you name it. We're just trying to share our platform with you and trying to harbor this inclusive, collaborative online community in which we can all grow together. So again, please make sure to follow us at legendsofthestoop.com. And until next time, I'm your host, Mike Pernice, signing off. Woo!
Gonna eat some of this. Yum.